Xin chào tất cả mọi người và chào mừng chúng ta đã quay trở lại với chuyên mục MGV Talkshow phiên bản podcast online. Và ngày hôm nay sẽ là một số rất đặc biệt, vì ngày hôm nay chúng ta sẽ có một vị khách mời không phải đến từ Việt Nam mà đến từ một quốc gia rất là xa xôi, đó là vùng Catalonia của đất nước Tây Ban Nha. Và ngày hôm nay thì chúng ta sẽ cùng nhau chia sẻ về một chủ đề có thể coi là xu hướng xanh hóa toàn cầu, đó là về lĩnh vực ESG và vai trò của các tiêu chuẩn ESG trong việc phát triển bất động sản, đặc biệt là bất động sản nghỉ dưỡng và bất động sản hàng hiệu. And today we are so happy to have Mr. Miquel here as an ESG expert who joined with us in the very first podcast, who have a guest speaker as a foreigner. So please, Mr. Miquel, you have the first speak to introduce about yourself to our audience.
Well, thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here joining you. My name is Miquel Àngel, and I'm the founder of a company called MQL Sustainable Tourism Services. I work and live here in Vietnam since 1999 for 27 years. I've been working a lot in hospitality, on ESG, on sustainability, supporting many companies here in Vietnam. Mostly what we do is we work with many owners, property owners, with developers, with hotel management companies that they operate here in Vietnam, and we help them to save costs, to increase revenues, to apply the ESG principles and sustainability, which is something that we can talk during the next few minutes. I think is a very trendy and interesting topic these days.
Well, yeah, we all agree that ESG is such a very trendy term of the word, right? But to make it simplify that where all of the people can have an overview about, how would you describe it in an easier way to talk?
Right. ESG is a very simple process and definition that stands for environmental, social, and governance. It's nothing complicated here. For environment, we do understand clearly to protect the environment, the mountain, the sea, the coast, the city. Everybody has a kind of responsibility respecting the environment. The social, we're talking about all the staff, the people who's working in our projects. They cannot be working 18 hours a day. They should be working 8 hours a day. We try to make half men, half women working in our projects. No need to be exactly 50-50, but 60-40 is okay. What is not very good is 90% of men, only 10% of women. So this is some of the issues that we look on social. On governance, what we look is that companies do have a proper establishment and proper legislative framework. Are they legal? Do they pay taxes? Do they employ the right number of people and have the good relationship with the place where they are located? So these three topics, ESG, are not difficult to apply. It's a myth when people think that it's something very difficult or very complex or very expensive. Some people say it's very expensive, which is not real.
All right. So I want to ask first thing about your times in Vietnam. 27 years. What keep you so long in Vietnam for that amount of time? Almost 3 decades, right?
Almost 3 decades here. Yes, it is true. I will say that during all these years here in Vietnam, I've been observing a lot of progress in many areas. When I came here to Vietnam, reminds me a little bit the place where I'm coming from, in Catalonia there in northern Spain. We suffered very similar process that Vietnam is suffering. Vietnam came after decades of colonization and war. In Spain, we have a dictatorship for many, many years. The post-war was very poor country in Spain, like here in Vietnam too. And we arrived to one point that we have to open the country like Vietnam opened here during the Doi Moi. So in Catalonia, we have also a lot of coast, like here in Vietnam. We have a lot of mountains, like here in Vietnam. We have a lot of cultural heritage. The gastronomy is also one very attractive point there. And a lot of similarities between my country, where I'm coming from and study and grow there, and Vietnam. So I observed that during the previous years, before coming here to Asia, my first trip here to Asia was in 1997, working in Thailand, I work in Thailand, Laos, Cambodia, and mostly Vietnam. I observe similar pattern that we suffered in Europe, where the tourism came 40 years, 50 years ago. Here in Vietnam, we are now at 15, 20 years process. So many of the similar patterns, many of the mistakes that Vietnam can be doing today is exactly the same mistakes that we were doing back in Europe 30 years ago. Sometimes it's because no knowledge, sometimes it's because we have better interest to make fast profit and fast money and not thinking about mid or long term. So all these similarities between the countries, even far away in the global world, keep me here because I think we can add a lot of value to owners, to community, to the government, and this is one of the main reasons that keeps me here. From there, we can say that each country has its own different specific interest or topics. Here in Vietnam, we have a lot of ethnic minorities. We have some differences between the north in Hanoi and the south in Ho Chi Minh City. But when we talk about real estate, we talk about hospitality, we talk about ESG, the principles are exactly the same. We are talking about visitors, we are talking on people who want to buy apartments or rent apartments or live in hotels, and all this is very similar. So we apply most of the principles that we were learning and applying 35, 40 years ago here in Vietnam as something new. But in reality, it's not very new. ESG, sustainability, regenerative tourism, all this is nothing new. We applied many years ago, but it is new in Vietnam. I agree on that.
So it's not a new concept, it's just new to Vietnam, right?
Right.
So I think our conversation is going to be interesting between you and me because you've more, in last 2 decades, you're more likely working in the hospitality as an operator, right?
Yes.
And me, we are working at a sell side from the developer. So here's the thing. I think the ESG implement might be very familiar with people who working as operators. So you familiar with control the cost, running the hotel, managing and all that stuff. However, from our sales perspective, we don't really usually have the chance to see the impact of it, especially in our sales process, because very rare of the people, especially the agency out there, who do the consulting to the buyer, yes, the one who really put down the money and purchase for the property, right, based on the ESG element. Right. And how would you cover the gap between that two, between a person who works as an operator and then as me, who's a salesperson?
Right. It's very, very interesting to see because the pattern, it repeats here. Focusing on real estate, on the apartment for sale and all this, we observe that many Vietnamese and many foreigners who want to buy apartments here in Vietnam or want to buy service apartments, hotels, or invest into the sector, they do consider ESG as one of the key requirements before buying. And you can say, but how? How is this? I'm starting to observe here in Vietnam many developers who do have construction green certifications, like can be LEED or Lotus or H in their constructions. That's a construction certification for the building that ensure that the process of building follows some standards determined by international or national regulation. Once the building is finalized there, we come into action and we can certify on ESG, on any other kind of sustainability certification, because the final customer every day is wiser and more clever. A few years ago, we can trick and sell poor quality to many customers who don't know much, but today the customer is quite clever. And everybody is looking for efficient buildings. People is buying now properties that they have proper glass outside the building that do not attract too much sun, because after the building gets very hot and your cost monthly on air conditioning is much higher. So people is looking for buildings that they already implement solar panels to take some energy and bring down the cost of the operation of that building. So this benefit to the people who's living there, to the operation company, that we can work on that, and to all the residents who stay there or visit the property. But this is not only related to these 2 points. We are talking about the water that your building or the apartments that you're selling, where is this water going after the use at home? When you take a shower or you cook some vegetables and you put some dirty water or oil there on the sink, where is this going? People want to live in an environment that you have proper tanks under the building to treat all this water. And all this water, instead of being thrown away into the main public canals, you still can reuse for several areas, for gardening, for reverting back into some systems, for rewashing the water and giving other use, for cooling the building, for heating the building there. So these just 3 samples. What we do, we have a long list of parameters that we do cover, including water and services in toilets, in public areas, in corridors, in elevators, in pumps, in air conditionings, in mechanical equipment, and all these save around 20 to 30% of the cost of the operation on that building. That means that when owners and developers, they buy the equipment from new at the beginning, they save some cost related to the equipment, because the equipment is not more expensive to apply ESG, is similar to the actual that we have. The only thing is that you need to look for certain characteristics that give you the final result.
So here's the question, because you say that if all of the ESG principles then apply to the building and the project can help the developer to reduce the cost, right?
Yes.
Cost is always like the biggest concern of any developer. True. But if we can have an offer for them, a solution that can help them to reduce the cost, so what makes the developer hesitate to apply all of ESG? Because nowadays we see in the market, not all of the developers apply the ESG.
True.
It's very, very rare that developers doing that.
True. The answer to that is mostly ignorance. We do not know. We never knew before about ESG or about sustainability or about regenerative solutions. We never knew before. Many years ago, when we want to build, we just need some bricks and concrete, and one architect, somebody who survey and keep going there, we're starting to build there. But now this is not enough if we want to compete with international developers and international players. We look at our neighboring countries here in ASEAN, like Thailand, like Indonesia, like Philippines, where they apply a lot, for many years, a lot of ESG principles and sustainability. For many years, they are really ahead of Vietnam. And little by little, Vietnam is starting to wake up, but still very far from what they did in the past. The point here is that in Vietnam, we already built some projects applying green certification during the construction, and we apply some ESG certification once the building is finalized. Because this ESG certification focus more in the operation on the building. Can be an apartment, can be a hotel, can be a service apartment, doesn't really matter. What we look here is to evaluate what all the people working in the property are doing. Real samples for our audience to get illustrated there. Some properties can be using, for example, plastic bottles to serve water to the customers, or in the rooms or in the apartments. Plastic bottles per se is not a big problem. I can certify some property using plastic bottles. Many people has the misconception that is impossible, you cannot use plastic bottles because this is terrible, and this is not true. That's another myth that is around the market there. Some hotels are starting to use now crystal bottles. Yes. But this also improve the plastic waste, but also is difficult and make some issues related to the operation, because the glass can break, it's very heavy, the people need to carry, people need to return, we need to clean the bottle, so it has a logistics on back on that. So what is important is one building that you are managing or you want to sell and you use plastic bottles there. The important is that once you drink the water inside that plastic bottle, you give it to us. You give it to somebody that we can treat that plastic bottle and apply circular economy, bring it back to life in another form. So if you want to continue using your plastic bottles, it's no problem. I can still certify what you do, but all the plastic bottles after you drink, please put them aside, and we will ensure that we can collect from you, bringing to our center to treat all this plastic and returning back in form of many other different materials. Same applies for paper, for cans, for glass, for hazardous materials, and for organic. One of the most typical areas that we are working for our customers is on zero waste. Zero waste. What we ensure is that many companies, they stop producing any waste. And not exactly producing, you produce the waste, but we ensure that all the waste is fully treated and recovered back into something useful. With the plastic, we still can treat the plastic and do coasters for the tables, or we can do chairs, or we can do cabinets, or we can do lockers. With the papers, we can treat the paper and do more books or more paper. With the glass, we still can do ceramics and floorings and many equipment. With the cans, the aluminium, we still can use to do pots and pans and create jobs and bring it back to life. With the organic, we still can treat it properly and put it back into the soil. We don't need to buy chemicals. Yeah. So that's the idea of how can a building is more comfortable for all the residents living inside and easier to sell. We are talking here on how people can buy. People want to buy properties that they care about the environment, that they care about the social, and care about the governance. Company legal, the staff working the hours they have to work. We don't mistreat anyone working there, and we respect the environment. That's easy. Tool is a very good tool for you to sell and bring more apartments to the final customer.
Okay, so then we narrow down in the real estate into the hospitality sector. That because real estate is big, right?
Right.
Industrial going to be different, residential different, commercial building might be different. So let's talk about the hospitality industry, that where we have been working for the last 10 years. Our company had joined with one of the most famous developer in hospitality sector in Vietnam is BIM Land, and they are considered also as a pioneer in the green development. They have plenty of projects with a ESG certification, like the newest last year was the InterContinental Halong.
True.
So they applying that ESG sustainable for their project. But beside the BIM Land, we still want to see more and more developers who apply that one. But how could you, as a consultant, I would say, convince the developer at the beginning? Because the first one is very hard. After the first one, you can easily to have the second, the third project, but the first one is very, very complicated to convince them. And how could you do that at the beginning?
Well, for us, the positive thing here is that we do have some pioneers already working on that and already certified. So we are not the first doing, because some projects in the market, they are already certified by us and by other brands existing in the market. It is not difficult also the follow-up, because the final customer wants to stay in hotels, in hospitality projects, that they do real ESG impact measures. Not only that they say. Now in Vietnam, we do visit many hotels that they say that they do. They say that they are green, and we use a word in the industry called greenwashing. Many people talk a lot about many things, but after they don't do in real. So my advice here, I will say for developers, for hotel owners, for hospitality professionals who are working there, my advice will be to be real. Call one independent audit. Can be our company. There are many others. I'm happy to recommend. If you don't like our company, we can recommend some others available in the market, and we will help you to pre-audit all these ESG components. And at the end, we will call one independent auditor from outside to come and give you the certification. This avoids any misunderstanding and doubt about the certifier and the pre-auditor there. That clear anything. So from there, we do recommend also go for an international certification, much better than a national certification, because the Vietnamese national standards right now are still lower than the international ones. So we do provide to many hotels international certification from the European Union, and from there we have a long list. It's not just a checklist. That's another misconception that we have in the market, that is just a checklist that you check, and this is not exactly what we do. What we're talking here is that we need to measure what you are doing related to environment. We need to measure what you do related to social, and also what you do related to governance. How do we measure that? We have some charts and some parameters that everybody need to follow on that. And from there, you need to prove what you say. It's not that you say, yes, in our property, we don't use plastic bottles. Okay, please prove it to me. Can you show me a contract of a water company who supplied to you crystal bottles? Can I go and check in the rooms if you have their crystal bottles? So we have to prove. Once we prove everything that we do, after we do for the customers a pre-audit, we check if everything is correct, and we have proof of that. Once we finish this process, that can last for you, for our listeners, to have an idea, between 3 to 6 months, if it's correctly done, we pre-audit, and when we are ready, we call the auditor to come and audit and give you the certification. Can be for 1 year, for 2 years, depending on what you're looking for. One of the biggest concerns is cost. Yes. Many people say, wow, these certifications, because international is very expensive. This is not true. That's another myth that we would like to bring down today. What we are doing here is auditing what you are doing in your property. And we are not the police. We don't come there to check. No. But this is something that when we start the conversations, all the stakeholders need to be aligned on the same direction. Means the owner, together with the management company, together with all the department heads, together with all the staff. We all need to follow the same direction. And so the first meeting with the owners, after we talk to all the team and everybody knows where are we going. And where are we going is to save cost to the owner. That's what we want to achieve, to make less cost for the owner. The cost of the certification is minimal compared to the cost you are going to save. I will say once you get the certification, your cost is fully absorbed in less than 6 months. So that's very little impact. In your budget, in your P&L, in your forecast, there's no impact. It's just reducing your cost. The question today that we see many developers, many management companies, that they auto-certify themselves. They say, oh, we do, we evaluate, we consider it, but after it's not real, because you need somebody to come to audit this data. You cannot say that you are the best seller in the world if somebody from outside certified what you're doing. So that's what we are doing, supporting the owners, supporting the management companies. And last misconception that we can bring down here is that this is a very difficult process, takes a lot of time. You pay and takes a lot of time to do. That's not true. All this evaluation is done online, and we have a platform there where you see all the questions, all the measurements, and we follow up with you. We are here in Vietnam for the last 27 years. We follow up with you the progress. We see where you progress more, where you progress less, and we support you where you progress less. Another of our services too, we recommend to the owners, is to train a sustainability manager in your project. That's very interesting.
A new, brand new position in the
Correct. Is actually not brand new, because we already met in some networking events new sustainability managers for companies that never had before. Real estate companies, property management companies, consultancy companies, they have a sustainability manager. Why is that? Because this is where the world is going. The final customer want to be in a real place where ESG is professionally and perfectly applied. Not that you just say, and you don't use plastic bottles. Plastic bottle is one sample. Many people think that changing the water bottles and putting one sign in the room, please reuse the towel for one more day, that's the sustainability. And that's not exactly what we're talking about. There are many, many areas that we apply. We apply in the laundry, in the chemicals you are using, in the pest control that you are doing in the garden, in the water, in the oil, in the gasoline, in the electricity you are using. So there are many, many different parameters. So cost is not the deterrent of getting engaged in that, because you recover that cost easily. Depending on the size of the property, the price go higher or lower. One hotel with, let's say, 30 employees pays very little. One hotel or one property with residential property with 1,000 employees pay higher rates. But cost is not the biggest issue because you recover very fast.
So we talk about the hospitality, that we are saving the cost for the owner as a developer in this case, right?
Yes.
And we know that these days in Vietnamese market, the appearance of the international operator is more and more. We have Marriott in here, we have the Hyatt in here, we have the IHGs in here. So do they bring the ESG demanding become a condition to forcing the developer to apply that into their property? And do they make a strong impact on make this trend to increasing in futures?
Well, it's interesting because this ESG and sustainability is moving into many sectors, not only real estate. We move into banking, and green finance is also a very hot topic these days. Because if you have your international certification on sustainability, your credits at the bank has lower interest. So you pay less interest to the bank because you have our certification in your place. Many owners still don't know that. So if you need to ask for money because you are going to buy more capex, more capital expenditure, or you are going to buy new furniture, you're going to redesign some of the floors of the hotels, this money the bank can give it to you with lower interest if you have a certification in your property. So having said that, many of these international management companies, they do have sustainability managers and sustainability departments. They do have. And many of them, they say, yes, we do internally. This is something good, it's nothing negative, but somebody need to audit what these international brands are doing. It is not enough now for Accors, Hyatts, Marriotts, Hiltons, Melias, all these companies doing internally is not enough for the final customer. Need to be audited data. You need to bring somebody from outside to audit what your internal efforts are and at which level are you. And this proves to your customers that you are real. We link to what we were discussing before. Just be real. Why you need to fake or auto-do the data if you don't really know what you're doing, and fake reports, and fake in your website, fake pictures, or even real pictures with the fake results. So what we do here is do a real audit. And people in Vietnam get sometimes a little bit scared of the word audit. Everybody think audit, you are coming to check the money, the profits, the salaries, and we do nothing related to that. We are absolutely not interacting with finance at any point. We don't want to know how much taxes are you paying, how much salaries are you paying, what profits do you... This is nothing related to our audits. What we audit is on environmental respect. We check how good you are in the environment that you have your property located. We check in your social. Your staff, do they have social insurance? Do they work enough hours per day? Do you have enough staff? Do you make people underage working at your property? That's a big issue. Yeah. And governance, we go there just to check that you follow the requirements here in Vietnam. Furthermore, we let you be aligned to international standards. So when the Vietnamese authorities come to check your property, you already leading the way. You are ahead of what is required. So do not be scared of these ESG audits. Is another of the big topics that are in the market. Oh, because this audit, you will come and check my computer, all the data. We don't want to know. We don't want to know about customers. We don't want to know who pay or who did not pay or where the money is coming from. This is not our business. We focus on this sustainability. To give you another sample, some of these big hotels or big properties here in Vietnam, they do have a big problem the ones located next to the beach, they have a very big problem because the beach brings a lot of pollution, a lot of plastic, a lot of products to the sun. And the customers every day go to the beach to stay there in the sun. So many of these hotels, they do clean daily the part of the beach in front that belongs to them. But this is I will say, is a good thing to clean the part of the beach in front of you, yes. But next day, the beach appears again full of microplastics that even we go and collect the big ones, the microplastics are too small that even with nets, the hotels cannot collect. So this is something that many general managers share and report to us. So we do offer solutions for destinations, not only for one hotel. We can support 25 hotels around the whole bay or the whole area or the whole island to keep the beach clean, the sand of the beach clean, and to keep the water clean, because we have systems to install over the water. We have some barrier and some automatic system that collect all the waste, so cannot come into the sun. And we have some equipment that can filter all the sun during the day, during the night, without disturbing the customers. And the cost is minimal compared to what you have right now. So many hotels complain that all the staff need to go and clean the beach every morning. So all the staff is not satisfied. Working under the sun, very hot, early in the morning, that's not very satisfactory. So we offer solutions. In our company, in MQL Sustainable Tourism Services, what we do is offer solutions to owners, to developers, to real estate companies, to hotel operation companies. We are not there to make instant money and never. We are here in Vietnam for many years, and we work mid and long term with our customers. We have customers that work with us for many years, and we are offering solutions to reduce your cost and increase the return on investment. That's what we do.
Yeah, so I can see that in hospitality, the impact from the ESG is visible, like comparing with the other, right? So you see, you clean the beach, you attract more destination, the award, the certification can impactful on the business result.
Yes.
Like one of the report that I read from the Marriott, they say that nowadays in the world, people willingly to pay more to travel to the hotel that who have the certified with the green principle, like the certification, right? So in hospitality, yes, that's good. But how about the residential? The residential is more likely the developer finish, they sold the property, and just like, boom, it's out, my business are. So how could you show them that the ESG really contribute on the added value for the project, even they have been sold out?
It is even more important because how many nights do you spend in a hotel every year? You travel several times per year, some long weekends, during Lunar New Year, end of April, 2nd of September. That's the nights that you can be in some hotel or some resort. But during the rest of 340 or 50 days a year, you live in a residential apartment. That's what is very, very important, that the ESG principles are applied daily. That's where we can make a lot of impact. If the residential building where you are, produce every day 1,000 kilograms of garbage, and the only thing that the developer and the individual owners do is put it in the garbage room or put it on the street for being collected, we have a problem. That's a big problem. And the law is coming soon to fine all these people doing wrong, because you have to sort all the waste you produce. But we should not finish our responsibility there. After we sort, what happened? That the garbage company come and put all the sorted material into the same garbage truck and go to the landfill. That's another problem. The landfills here in Vietnam, they keep growing with all kind of material, with a bad smell, many kilometers away, affect many residential projects. The leakage affect many of the farmers around these waste areas and these landfills. So this is all negative. So we need to address that. And residential is one of the areas where we can address there easily. If imagine all the plastic they produce in your building together, we give it to some people, so we will create some jobs, and these people will treat all this plastic properly. To do other products that we can do with plastic after we recycle. We call this circular economy. The products start and they don't die. They come back and come back and come back. So instead of if you only do the plastic, imagine if you do all the paper, you do all the glass, all the cans, all the organic. You make your building zero waste building. That's your residential property. That's one area. But also, imagine that we can improve the way the cleaners and the security working in your property work better. How? There are many ways that developers can help on that. Do the housekeepers or cleaning ladies has one proper place to work? I visit during these 27 years many properties, residential properties, that the cleaning ladies, they have a very, very tiny room to stay there, to keep the material, to keep the cleaning equipment. They cannot rest. That's a big problem because everybody deserves a proper place to work. Another issue, for example, is pantries. We know real estate, the space is money. Yeah. Square meters are money. But in buildings where we do daily or 2 or 3 times a week housekeeping, cleaning bed sheets, cleaning pillows, cleaning towels, all these need to be stored floor by floor. You know well, many of the buildings, they don't have any storage plan. So the housekeeping store is very, very far, means that every single day the people who's working need to carry a lot of weight on equipment to go up, and not enough elevators because we make only one elevator for the staff. And that's another issue. So you see here that we're talking about a lot of things that real estate developers and operations we can improve on. Correct? That's one sample. If we go into the kitchen, or we go into the canteen, or we go into the engineering shop where all the engineers are working, or into the water treatment or waste treatment tanks, all this is a very, very big and important areas for the building, usually ignored by constructing companies and developers. So what we do is we help you from the beginning, from your plans, to plan properly. We will sit down with our ESG construction team to advise you what to do. We will sit also with the people in operations. We will tell you how big the pantries need to be, how big the stores. Maybe every 2 floors we need one space. Maybe it's not every floor that we need. But now, what we are doing mostly now is correcting a lot of mistakes done by construction and developers. And it's not, sometimes this mistake is not on purpose, it's because these people, they never work in operations. We work for many years in operations, so we know what we need. We know that we need a meeting room. We know that we need one canteen, and the canteen is very important, same as the toilets. Toilets and showers for the staff is something usually forgotten by developers. Yeah. But everybody needs to go to the toilet several times per day. Everybody needs to take a shower after you finish your work, to go home, and next day you come back, take a shower, and start to work comfortably. So when we're starting to neglect or forget or focus only on the apartments we can sell, instead of the operation of the building, everything is starting to go down, and your sales is starting to go down. It's very difficult for you to sell these projects. Now we go to the opposite scenario. One developer who built following ESG and sustainability. The building save a lot in energy, cost the glass, cost the plants, cost the water, cost the recycling, all this, a lot of saving in cost. And the people who go to work there, they have the proper space to work. It's not a suite that they need. We're talking about a proper working space. So you apply a lot of benefits for the people who work, for the people who live, and all this revert in positive outcome for you. You save money, and the people who work with you want to work for many years because they work comfortably. There are many samples here in Ho Chi Minh City, in Hanoi, in Da Nang. buildings platinum certified, that they follow all these parameters. And everybody wants to work in these buildings because it's very important how we live, residential, very important how we live, but also the people who work in your residential project, they also need to work every day in a comfortable way. That's why they can offer good service to you. From there, we move into materials. The materials that the real estate developers use, if they are sourced responsibly, if they are, some of them, maybe recycled material that looks very new there, if it's not illegal wood from the forest that is protected, if it's not made in countries that they use kids to work as labor. All this is the things that we observe during the construction process. So we sit with the owner from the planning stage and we support them on a very long list of things that we can think about. This is a long-term process, the 2, 3, 4, 5 years that the construction is moving. We keep aligning to ESG and sustainability. So at the end, when we finish the project, it's very easy to certify because we already follow everything from day one.
I see. So you mentioned about money, which is a very interesting that topic that everybody loves it. So we know that not just only in the real estate industry, all the world is going for the trend to be ESG, and the bank or any financial statement, they get really deep involved in providing the advantage for the people who follow to the ESG. So we talk about BIM Land again, because we do so many good projects with them, and I think BIM Land is one of the very few developers in Vietnamese take this advantage to apply to their project. They are one of the first developers in Vietnamese getting the support from the green bond, from the international financial market, right? So they get a loan from the international money market with a lower rate, because they got the certification for their green project. And I think this is a very direct and impactful element to push them to go forward with this way of method of development, right?
True. At the end, all this ESG and sustainability thing coming is all related to money, but not just the cost. People see it as a cost, and it's not true. It's about producing better products with less amount of energy, less amount of cost. That's the idea. So now, most of the banks in Vietnam, we can name all of them, they give you green financing at lower cost if you follow what you have to follow. So here we can save some money because all developers need to work with one big bank to lend you the money to build. So this way you can save some cost. But at the moment that you start building and buying the materials, this you can save also some cost on that. And when you finish the project, you start the operations, you can still keep saving cost. We work here in Vietnam for mid and long term. And being here for 27 years is not working for 3 months and after you go on. You work for very long term. Many of the developers and construction companies and operation and management companies, they know us very well. We are here to stay. And with the team, we are working very hard in English, in Vietnamese, in many other languages that we support the owners, in reducing their cost. That's our prime motto. We put ourselves in the owner's shoes. How can we reduce your cost and deliver better quality? That's the idea. And with less money, we can deliver much more if it's properly planned. At the end, if the final customer is also requesting that we want some property ESG certified, we want that all the water that we consume there is fully treated, fully circled there, so we don't need to spend more management fee every month. Because one of the things here that nobody wants to pay a very high management fee in any property. So that's every month. Every month you have to pay. So if we reduce this management fee, the customers are more eager to buy your product because your management fee is lower. But what you deliver at the end is a better product. Why? Because we thought before in advance about what we were doing. And that's the key. Planning properly, using the tools that you have in hand, ESG, green certification for the construction, sustainability certification at the end of the building. These are tools for you to save cost, not to increase your cost. That's a false myth. that we were talking before. Once you have this, the final customer, they start moving out from apartments that they are not following any standard, from office space that they don't follow any standards, and moving out to the new offices that follow ESG, that they are certified, that they respect the environment, that they have a fitness center there for the staff, that they have a good toilets, good showers, good facilities for the drivers. See, all the drivers waiting inside the buildings, they want to smoke, they want to rest, they have no place to stay. So you see them sitting sometimes in illegal areas, smoking underground in the parking lots. That should not happen. If we plan it in advance, listen, make the drivers be comfortable in one room with a small air conditioning there, or some fans, with some water, with some access to make some hot soup if you want to. Meanwhile, they wait for your tenants to go to work or pick them up. So it's about all this is related to the ESG that we are discussing.
I think it's a really big topic, and it's very hard to conclude it in just one 45-minute videos, right? But lastly, before we ended up our topic these days, so I just want to ask you one few last thing, that ESG absolutely is a trend, and we know that the Vietnamese government is really make big effort to commit with the global standard about to cut off the waste for Vietnamese in upcoming year, especially in 2015, right?
Correct.
To be net zero.
Yes.
And it will be impactful dramatically in the real estate, absolutely. So it's just not the game of that whether you want it or you don't want it. It's gonna be sooner or later become the compulsory.
Absolutely.
And from your perspective, you're just not only providing the consultant for developer, operator, so you have any suggestion from your experience for us at the sales agency who's working in real estate as a bridge, connecting the product of the developer to the consumer, how to make them have better understand, how to better perceive the value of these kind of products, so we can, in one hand, to contribute for this process happen.
Correct. This is something that affects all of us. You're right. We work a lot with the government, with the different ministries on this regulatory framework, the carbon credits, and the net zero that we have to achieve in 2050. So this is something related to everybody, not only to construction or to tourism, related to factories, to the citizens, to the way we use the cars. That's why now more electric vehicles are coming to. So going directly to your point here, so what you need to help us and help the final customers that contact you to all go on the same direction. So we all working on a similar pattern, because this is about education. We need to share to the customers why one ESG building is better than one without ESG. Why one developer who built with a green construction permit, with a green certification on top, with the ESG principles from day one, is better from another one that built very fast without thinking anything related to ESG. Soon will come to Vietnam a lot of fines and penalties for some of these developers that do not apply, and some of these companies that they want to build very fast, ignoring ESG, ignoring quality, ignoring environment, ignoring the social aspect of the governance. Penalties are coming very soon. The government are really aware of that, and the 2050 deadline cannot be missed. This is something agreed globally. So when Vietnam decided to join there, the government knew that we need to work hard on many areas, not only in real estate. But for me, one of the decisive areas that we should start to improve faster is the population of Vietnam. In Vietnam, we are over 100 million Vietnamese, and a couple of thousand foreigners that we are here, some for many years, some for short period, that they are watching us online on the YouTube channel too. I will say that if everybody start treating their waste, treating their social aspect, the people they work with, the cleaners they work with, the engineers they work with, the people selling on the street that people buy every day too. And all this makes a lot of positive impact at the end. So when we say one hotel is cleaning the beach there, we can say, this is not useful well, is useful is a little impact. And a lot of little impacts produce a mid-size impact. And a lot of mid-size produce a big impact. So we all here on the same. Huh? Thinking, now the kids, when they learn at the school, everybody is starting to learn not to throw away the drink or the box from any of the milk brand. After you drink it, throw it on the floor. Kids don't do that anymore. But parents are still doing. Grandparents are still doing. And many people are still putting the garbage bag outside on the street. And this has to change. In Vietnam, doesn't matter in which district you live, you see daily burning of waste. That's another thing that needs to change. And we're talking about the air we breathe, CO2. So if we have people burning waste near us and we are breathing this air, the micro pollution that you're producing there comes into our body and affect our life. And here in Vietnam, one thing that we are very conscious is that we want to live long. Vietnamese citizens, you all practice a lot of exercise every day. Doesn't matter what time you wake up, there is people already doing exercise. At the same time, all these efforts need to drive through ESG, to take care of your own garbage. That's not difficult to do. But if we need to take care of 12 million people producing garbage in Ho Chi Minh City only, that's a very hard job to do. Even we work on that. So what I mean by that is small efforts count. If you today apply some of the principles that you learn on this video, on this podcast that we are recording now, and your neighbor is starting to do it tomorrow, that's a lot of impact. Because soon the whole floor will follow the same, and the whole building follow the same. And this make it easy for everybody, for us, for the developer, for selling the property. Who wants to live in one place with a lot of garbage on the street? Nobody. So when you sell to your customers, if you tell them that we have zero waste around our building, neither in our neighborhood, because we treat properly, that's a very easy way to sell. It's attractive way of selling, right?
Very interesting. Me, myself, I feel like attractive with my property right now.
Correct.
Okay, thank you so much, Miquel, for very intensive information. I know this is a really big topic, not just only for us or our industry, but also it's going to be a long run for whole Vietnam to become a better Vietnam. And we know that the government now is making a big effort to make Vietnam become a most living and attract people to want to move here and to live here. And I hope that in both your work and my work, or anybody out there, we're working hard for this and truly make a better Vietnam. So once again, thank you so much for your time to be here and your very deep sharing about your expertise. And I wish you best of luck with all of your work and your client as well. Và một lần nữa rất cảm ơn tất cả những khán giả của kênh Địa ốc MGV đã dành thời gian để lắng nghe những chia sẻ của anh Miquel về một chủ đề mà Nhân nghĩ rằng là sẽ còn rất hấp dẫn trong nhiều năm tới về việc phát triển xanh, bền vững và đặc biệt là trong lĩnh vực bất động sản. Hy vọng rằng những nội dung chia sẻ ngày hôm nay đã mang tới những thông tin bổ ích, thú vị. Và nếu như quý vị khán giả, những vị người nghe, người xem muốn liên lạc nhiều hơn với anh Miquel để tìm hiểu về chủ đề này thì có thể comment ở phần tương tác bên dưới. Và đừng quên để lại một nút like, nút share và subscribe kênh để có thể đón chờ những thông tin bổ ích, những vị khách mời đặc biệt và những câu chuyện hay xoay quanh lĩnh vực bất động sản. Một lần nữa thì rất cảm ơn mọi người đã dành thời gian theo dõi và xin chào tạm biệt và hẹn gặp lại. Bye bye.